high school or undergrad, you're ambitious, and you want to get into your dream school on a full ride scholarship, but you have no idea where to start. Well, do I have good news for you? Because in this 10-part series, I'm going to be walking you through every single step that you need to take to get into your dream school on a full ride scholarship. My name is Jack Anderson, I'm 24 years old, and I'm currently pursuing my Masters of Education Technology at Harvard University on Harvard's most prestigious full ride scholarship called the Frank Knox Memorial Fellowship, which is only given out to 15 Harvard graduate students every single year. I'm also a 2024 Quad Fellow, which means out of 3,500 applications, I was one of 50 STEM leaders selected for this very prestigious STEM scholarship. I've also been a finalist for every single major scholarship out there, including the Rhodes Scholarship, Fulbright Scholarship, O'Shaughnessy Fellowship, you name it, I've done every single major scholarship out there. And on top of that, I was also accepted into every single Ivy League I applied for, including Stanford, where my program only accepted 15 people in the entire world. I'm on a mission to make college admissions more accessible for students across the globe. And so in this 10-part series, I'm going to be walking you through every single step that you need to take to get into your dream school. And then on top of that, I'm also going to help you avoid the significant student debt that comes from attending a place like this by securing the scholarship of a lifetime. For video 1, we're going to be figuring out what is our purpose and why are we chasing this dream. But for every other video, we're going to be going deep into the logistics of scholarships. From how do I identify my dream schools list, to how do I identify the scholarships I want to apply for, right through to how do I find great character referees and academic referees, and then finally, how do I write a great application, a great resume, great supplemental essays, and then how do I give the best interview of my life. All of that and more is going to be covered in this series. Before we kickstart this 10-part course, if you would like free one-on-one support from myself in reaching your college dreams, then be sure to fill out my Google form at the top of the description, because I'm selecting one new student every single week over the next year to help them reach their college dreams. So no matter where you're at on your college journey, just fill out the form at the top of the description and see what happens. I'm incredibly excited to be launching this series with you, and I hope that you'll take my hand in reaching the dream school that you've always desired. For the first video in this dream college and scholarship series, you're probably thinking, Jack, can't you just give me the secrets to getting into my dream school on a full ride scholarship already? And whilst the next 8 videos are going to be focused on covering the logistics required to get into your dream school, it is essential that we first take the time to figure out what is our purpose behind chasing this dream and build up our self-belief so that we have the long-term motivation to keep pushing after this dream and keep acting on the information that I'm going to be providing you. So there's 2 critical ingredients we're going to get right today. The first is purpose, and then the second is self-belief. Let's start with finding our purpose. When I was 18 years old and I had the dream of getting into Harvard on a full ride scholarship, the first thing I did was take the time to write out a list of reasons as to why this dream mattered to me. Why was I chasing this to begin with? And it wasn't the generic reason of because it's Harvard. It was genuine reasons. I wrote down real reasons, like I want to be recognized as a leader in my field. I want to be surrounded by the smartest and most ambitious people on the planet. And I want to chase a dream that is truly going to challenge myself to my fullest. I wrote down a list of roughly 10 reasons and I put them down on my study desk to put it with a piece of tape. And every single day when I felt like quitting, when I felt like giving up, I would look at this piece of paper, look at these 10 reasons, and it gave me all the motivation I needed to keep chasing down my dream of getting into Harvard on a full ride scholarship. As another example of the power of purpose, I love long distance running and I regularly compete in marathons and ultra races. And before every single race, I take the time to open up my phone, go onto my notes app, and write out a list of at least 5 reasons as to why the heck I'm doing this race to begin with. Because when it gets to the halfway mark and I start to go into this really dark place, I just open up my phone, look at my list of reasons, and it gives me that reminder as to why I am chasing this dream and why I'm competing in this race to begin with. So today, I want you to do the same. I want you to take out your notebook or a piece of paper or even just the notes app on your phone and write out a list of at least 5 reasons as to why you want to get into your dream school. Why does it matter to you? On the screen, I'll put up a bunch of examples. It could be to receive a world-class education. It could be to receive prestigious credentials from a great school. It could be to get a bigger paycheck in your future job. It could be because you want to be the first in your family to attend an Ivy League or a prestigious school. It could be because you want to fulfill that childhood dream of going to Harvard. or it could just be that you want to gain the skills to one day go back to your home country or go back to your hometown and deliver huge amounts of impact for your community. If you're struggling, feel free to use ChatGPT to workshop those ideas. Enter the current reasons you have, and it should give you some suggestions around other reasons why you might want to attend this dream school. And once you're done, take your piece of paper and stick it down on your desk or the place in which you're going to visit most often. It might be just even your bedroom door. And then every single day, you'll be reminded of that list of reasons. And whenever you hit a roadblock or you feel like quitting, it's going to give you all the motivation and sense of purpose you need to keep chasing down this very difficult dream. Now that we've set our purpose, let's talk about the other component, which is self-belief. If we don't believe we can get accepted into our dream school, then we're never going to have the willpower to actually chase down this dream. However, I can't make you believe that your dream school is possible, because I didn't even believe I would get into my dream school when I started. I remember when I was 18 and I had this dream of getting into Harvard, I went to my mum and I said, "Mum, I'm going to be the least talented person to ever get accepted into Harvard." And as you can see, my self-belief was very low. The good news is your self-belief will become stronger the more you put in the work and the more you start chasing after your dream. All that we need is the self-belief to actually start. And the way in which we're gonna do that is through an exercise called the worst case scenario. That is, I want you to think of the worst case scenario of chasing after your dream of getting into a top school. After a few moments, you're quickly gonna realize that the worst case scenario of chasing after this dream is that you don't get accepted, you don't get into your dream school. In other words, the worst case scenario is you just fall short. But through this process of chasing after your dream school, you are going to gain so many skills, qualities, and attributes that are going to serve you so well for the remainder of your life. Some of the benefits include that you're going to become a significantly better writer through writing so many college applications. Your resume is likely going to be stacked. You will have a personal statement and letters of recommendation that you can use for all your future jobs, awards, conferences, scholarships, everything. They will serve you for the rest of your life. And most importantly, you will have the resilience, ambition, and drive required to really succeed in any field that you go into. Think of it like starting a YouTube channel. You gain so much confidence speaking in front of a camera. You learn video editing skills, and you also build up your public speaking abilities in general. All of these are big wins, just as there are so many wins of engaging in trying to get into your dream school, irrespective of the outcome. Once you realize that you can only win through chasing after your dream school and trying to win these big scholarships, that there's only benefits to be gained, all of your worries, anxieties, and self-doubt are going to wither away, and it's going to give you the self-belief just to start. And to be honest, if you can just follow the advice in this 10-part series that I'm trying to create, if you continue to immerse yourself in this scholarships and college admission space, and you use all the materials that I'm trying to create for free in the Google Drive, I think you're going to have a lot more success than you expect, or you're going to be thrust into a new career path because you're so exceptional, and it's going to be something even better than you thought it could be. So that's going to do it for this video. Stay tuned for part 3 of this series, where we start to get into the fun stuff, which is building out our dream college scholarships list. It's Dream Schools Listing Day. In the last video, we discovered our sense of purpose and self-belief, and today we're going to be diving into the real meat of this course. It's time to start crafting your dream schools list. Sounds daunting, right? Well, today I'm going to be walking you through a very simple process that will allow you to gain clarity on the dream schools that you want to apply for in the next year or years ahead. Often the simplest way to figure out what you want in life is to figure out what you don't want. That's why today we're starting with a rapid fire exercise. I'm going to say the names of the 10 most prestigious schools in the entire world, and they're likely going to be some of the dream schools that you want to apply for. Your job is to simply just answer yes or no to the following question. If I could, would I want to attend this school? Don't overthink it. Forget about acceptance rates, attendance costs, all of that stuff. Just go based on your gut feeling. Okay, let's crack into it. Here are the schools. Harvard University. Just a simple yes or no as to whether you'd like to attend. Stanford University, MIT, Yale University, Oxford University, again just a simple yes or no, the first thing that comes to your mind. Cambridge University, Princeton University, Columbia University, the California Institute of Technology, and finally, the University of Pennsylvania. In general, these are the most competitive schools in the world, so if you have your sights set on even just a couple of these, all the other schools you want to apply for will be a breeze to get into. When I did this test just 2 years ago, I quickly distilled down that I wanted to go to Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Yale, UPenn, and Columbia. So 6 schools in total. However, the next step was to figure out, could I even go to these schools based on the degree programs they offer? To do this, we need to see if the specific graduate school exists. For instance, my degree was in education, so I would search whether the university had a graduate school of education. For you, it might be the business school or the engineering school. So for Harvard, when I typed in Harvard Graduate School of Education, it popped up in the search bar, which meant that they did have my degree program on offer. However, when I typed in the Yale Graduate School of Education, nothing came up because Yale doesn't offer programs in the education field. Neither did Brown, Dartmouth, or MIT, and this process quickly helped me to distill down 4 schools that I wanted to attend, which were Harvard, Stanford, UPenn, and Columbia, and I actually ended up getting accepted into every single one. This very simple process helped me to quickly distill down my dream school list. So here's what I recommend you do. Just open up an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet, and in the first column put the dream school, and then in the second column just put whether or not the program is available that you're interested in. Very simple. Go through each of your dream schools and quickly check whether or not they have the degree program you want, and it's going to quickly help you to distill down a handful of schools you can look to apply to. And let's not forget, this process is about you. I only listed 10 of the most prestigious schools in the world, and there are so many other places you can consider. So on top of this list, it's really important that you take the time to go away, do your homework, and figure out what are the other schools that you want to apply to. And I think there are 2 really easy ways to do this. The first is just to type into Google US or UK university rankings and go through the list of the top 100 most highly ranked universities in the US or UK and write down schools that jump out to you and appeal to you. But the second approach is to think about the locations in which you'd like to live when you're studying. For instance, it might be you want to live in Canada or Italy or a specific state in the US. And in that case, you just type into Google top universities in Canada, top universities in New York, and hopefully that should start to give you more ideas about the universities that you want to study in. Ideally, from this process, just aim for a list of like 4 to 5 schools at the moment, and you can always add to that list in the future. Once you've identified a handful of dream schools that you're interested in applying for, we can now move on to video 4, which is about figuring out the scholarships that we want to apply for. Getting accepted into a graduate school is great, but you know what's even better? Getting accepted to a graduate school with a partial scholarship or even a full ride scholarship, because it gives you so much freedom and alleviation because there's no longer that financial burden. So in the next video, which is one of the most exciting videos, we're going to be going through 50 of the biggest scholarships in the world, and I'm going to be helping you figure out which scholarships you want to apply for. In the last video, you made your list of dream schools, and in today's video, we're going to be figuring out how can we go to our dream school without sinking into huge amounts of financial debt. And that's where scholarships come in. The premise of today's video is simple. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through 20 of the biggest full ride scholarships in the entire world. For your benefit, over the last few weeks, I've also been working with some of my fellow Harvard students to build a free scholarships database, which now has over 50 full ride scholarships in this database, and it's growing. So be sure to check that out at the top of the description, because all the scholarships I'm going to be referencing will be contained in there. So whether you're aiming for the Ivy Leagues or another dream school, this video is going to allow you to attend that school with complete financial liberation. Let's crack into it. At number 1, of course, we have the Rhodes Scholarship. This is the world's most prestigious full-ride scholarship to Oxford University, and it will fund either 2 master's degrees or your PhD program completely with a living stipend, everything covered. 120 are awarded every single year. It's super competitive. You have to be under 25, but it's available to everyone in the world. At number 2, we have the Frank Knox Memorial Fellowship, which is the scholarship that I am currently on at Harvard University. It's the most prestigious full-ride scholarship to Harvard University, and it allows you to study your master's degree or PhD at any of the Harvard graduate schools. Only 15 are awarded each year, and you must come from Australia, the UK, Canada, or New Zealand. Next up is the Knight Hennessy Scholarship, which is Stanford's most prestigious full-ride scholarship and is awarded to around 100 people every single year, and it's available to everyone in the world. It's going to fund either your master's degree, your PhD, or both if you really want to do both. And you get to live at Denning House, which is the Knight Hennessy Scholars House, for the duration of your degree. It's a real life-changing scholarship, but it's super competitive. At number 4 is the Schwarzman Scholarship, which is a full-ride scholarship to Tsinghua University in China, where you can study your Masters of Global Affairs. Up to 200 young leaders are awarded this every single year, and essentially you just spend a year immersing yourself in Chinese culture and developing yourself yourself into an international leader. I recently applied for this scholarship and I should find out in the next few weeks if I've been successful with it, so fingers crossed. At number 5, we have the Gates Cambridge Scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship to Cambridge University and is awarded to 80 people every single year. It's going to allow you to pursue your master's or PhD, and it's open to everyone in the world provided you're not a citizen of the UK. So literally just everyone outside of the United Kingdom, which is great for international students. At number 6, we have the Skoll Scholarship, which is a ridiculously competitive scholarship because it's going to be a fully funded degree for your MBA at Oxford. Only 5 people in the world win it every single year, and it's specifically focused on leaders who want to drive social impact, but this is something that I would suggest you wait until you're 25 to 30 years old to apply for so that you have enough experience. On a similar vein, at number 7, we have the Harvard MBA Scholarship, which is like the Skoll Scholarship, but this one's going to fund your Harvard MBA. It's going to give you $100,000 USD every single year to fund your MBA program, but it's only awarded to 3 people each year. So you're going to have a lot of work experience to actually be considered for something like this. Next up is the O'Shaughnessy Fellowship, which is one of the most exciting fellowships out there. It's $100,000 USD to spend a year working on your creative idea, your research project, or your startup to bring that into fruition. It's just $100,000 in funding, no strings attached, to financially support you to pursue your passion. Only 10 people win it each year across the globe, and I was shortlisted for this scholarship earlier this year, so I might make a video documenting my process and how I plan to submit a better application for next year. At number 9 is the Quad Fellowship, which is the other scholarship that I'm currently on for my degree at Harvard University. This is a $40,000 USD scholarship to support your postgraduate studies in the United States, whether that be for your master's or PhD. The catch is that you have to be focused in the field of STEM, so medicine, engineering, computer science, etc. And it's only available to some specific countries. So Australia, United States, Japan, the United Kingdom, and then also any of the 14 ASEAN countries. I also recently made a video about how I won the Quad Fellowship in the application I submitted and the interview process, so be sure to check out that video, it'll be in the description. At number 10 is the Clarendon Scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship to Oxford University that's going to allow you to pursue any master's or PhD program. It's very much like the Rhodes Scholarship, it's just another one. There is 200 scholarships awarded each year and you're automatically considered for it when you apply to Oxford, so it's a fantastic one to apply for if you're just planning on applying for Oxford anyway. At number 11 is the Fulbright Scholarship, which is like the hallmark postgraduate scholarship. It's awarded everywhere in the world and you get anywhere between $30,000 and $200,000 in funding, depending on what degree you're pursuing and which country you're coming from. There's thousands of these scholarships awarded every single year, so definitely check that one out. At number 12 is the Chevening Scholarship, and I seriously think this is one of the coolest scholarships because it's a full ride scholarship to any university in the UK, and the catch is that they award 1,500 of these scholarships every single year. I mean, talk about volume and value. Like, this is a scholarship that you should seriously consider if you want to do your postgraduate studies in the UK. Changing tack a little bit, at number 13 we have the Rotary Peace Fellowship, which is of course run by Rotary International, and it funds a master's program focused on promoting peace and social impact. Roughly 130 are awarded every single year, but the catch is that you need 3 years of full-time work experience in peace or social impact work. So this is something you're probably gonna have to do later down the career track. At number 14 is the TED Audacious Project, which is run by like the people who do TED Talks. So it's a really big deal. They award 10 every single year, and essentially they pay for you to house yourself at the TED offices to work on your creative idea, your startup, or any research innovation that is gonna drive huge amounts of change for the world. The National Geographic actually also does something very similar. They're super competitive. They're for people with a lot of career and worldly experience. So definitely just keep this one in the back of your mind and make it one that you're going to apply for every single year until you're successful. On a similar vein, at number 15 is the Teal Fellowship, which awards young people $100,000 to build their idea, startup, or research innovation. The philosophy of the scholarship is they want to fund people who want to build things instead of sitting in the classroom. So you must be under 23 years of age, there's 30 awarded annually, and if you are successful, you have to drop out of your undergraduate university degree in order to spend the 2 years pursuing the Teal Fellowship and your idea. Next up is the McCall McBain Scholarship, which is a full-ride scholarship to McGill University in Canada. So if you've ever had a passion for wanting to study in Canada, this one is for you because McGill University is one of the top universities in Canada. It covers tuition, gives you a living stipend, everything you need to maximize your time at McGill University, studying any master's degree there. Now, have you ever wanted to study in Switzerland? Because at number 17, we have the Swiss Government Excellence Scholarships, which are full-ride scholarships to study your PhD or master's at any university in Switzerland. There are over 500 of these scholarships awarded annually, so please check this one out if Switzerland is on the cards for you to do your postgraduate studies. At number 18 is the Commonwealth Scholarships, which are full-ride scholarships to any university in the UK to pursue your master's or PhD. The scholarship is specifically targeted towards students from low-income countries. So if you're from a low-income country, there's a ton of different scholarships within the Commonwealth Scholarships program that you can apply for. If you're from a high-income country like Australia or the United States, there is one scholarship you can apply for and it will fund your PhD. So definitely check that one out. Be careful with the eligibility requirements for that scholarship. At number 19, we're really changing pace here. It's going to be the American Express Leadership Academy and the One Young World Summit, both of which are leadership conferences for young leaders interested in social impact. The American Express Leadership Academy was run in 3 locations last year: Australia, New York, and the UK. And then the One Young World Summit was held in Montreal in Canada this year. So it just pays for your flights. It allows you to spend a week at a conference meeting like-minded young world leaders. So definitely check that one out if you want to grow your leadership potential in the field of social impact. And lucky last, at number 20, is the Churchill Fellowship. This is specifically for Australians and people from the UK, and it gives you $50,000 to spend the year traveling the world, learning from world leaders and gaining experiential learning in your field of expertise. The reason I put this as the last one is I feel as though this idea of travel fellowships exists across many countries. You just have to do your research through Googling travel fellowships in specific country or asking ChatGPT as well, because these are life-changing opportunities that you should definitely do your own research to find for your respective countries. And that's gonna do it for this scholarships video. I know that was a lot. Again, check out the scholarships database in the description, and my goal for this video is to expose you to hopefully 4 or 5 scholarships that you're now eager to apply for to help support your postgraduate studies in the United States, UK, or anywhere in the world. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. In the next video, I'm going to be explaining step by step how you can become the best possible applicant to position yourself to win full-ride scholarships and also get into your dream schools. When it comes to Ivy League admissions and prestigious scholarships, the question I get asked by far the most is, how do I become the best possible applicant for these scholarships and my dream schools? Or in other words, what should I be doing over the next few years to maximize my chances of getting into these top schools? These questions are really hard to answer, but in today's video, I'm going to be doing my best to explain how you can best position yourself for these prestigious scholarships and your dream schools. From my experience, when it comes to applying to dream schools and scholarships, first and foremost, you need excellent grades. That's a given. But you should not waste your time trying to get to the top of your cohort unless that's something very easy for you to do. Because all you need is grades that are going to keep you competitive in the applicant pool. Beyond grades, there are 3 application spikes that I have seen to find successful candidates. These are entrepreneurs, researchers, and working professionals. All 3 fields are valid, but in my opinion, the research category is by far the easiest to get into a scholarship or a dream school with, because of course, these top schools love funding researchers and want to give spots to people who want to do impactful research and PhDs. However, it's important that out of the 3 tracks I've presented, you pick the track that matters to you the most. It's not to do with whether or not you're going to get accepted or which one has the best likelihood, because whichever one you pick is the track you'll likely spend the rest of your lifetime pursuing. To help you figure out which category you're going to pursue to become the best possible applicant, I'm going to break down each one of these categories with examples so you can choose which one you want to be. Category 1 is entrepreneurs. This is the student who has founded their non-for-profit company or social enterprise in their home country and is using it to drive a lot of real good change for the world or for citizens in their home country. I'm going to use myself as the entrepreneur who had success in the prestigious scholarships and getting into all my dream schools, and I'm going to put my resume at the top of the description to help you understand the experiences I had as an entrepreneur. Essentially, I spent 5 years building out Elucidate Education, which is now one of Australia's largest largest education non-for-profits, and it provides students with equitable access to the textbooks, online content, and educational videos they need to succeed in school. We have a volunteer base of over 70 volunteers in 2 Australian states. I've published 7 books as well, and that was kind of the entrepreneurial spike that I presented to the schools I was applying for, like Harvard. In my opinion, going for the entrepreneurial spike is by far the hardest, because not only does it just take so much work to build a startup that's successful and gets off the ground, but it also has the highest probability of failure. But I don't want you to scare this away, because if you want to be an entrepreneur one day, then this is the category you should still go ahead with. The second category is the researcher, and from my experience being a Frank Knox Memorial Fellow and a Quad Fellow, the majority of people fit into this category. For this category, I'm going to use my cousin Brooke as the example, because she won a Knight Hennessy scholarship to Stanford, which is arguably the most competitive scholarship in the world, in my opinion. The reason she won the Knight Hennessy scholarship is because by the time she'd finished her undergraduate degree in electrical engineering, she had done a handful of research placements that were really difficult to get into, and also had a pending patent for an algorithm for breast cancer that helps people with breast tissue scanning trials. So a super powerful patent pending piece of research that she then presented to the Knight Hennessy Scholars Program, and they were like, absolutely, we will have you in our 100 scholars for the first cohort. The final category is the professional category, and this best applies for people working in the fields of like law and finance, because essentially you just need a ton of work experience at top firms like Goldman Sachs or the top law firms in the world. For this category, I'm going to use my friend Shane as the example, because he was the runner-up for the Rhodes Scholarship in Western Australia for 2023. For his profile, he was the top of his class for law in his university, and he'd also done 5 clerkships at the top law firms in Australia by the time he'd graduated. Okay, so these are the 3 categories that you can choose from, and if you're feeling overwhelmed by like the profiles that I've just presented, you need to remember that all of these people are like recipients or finalists of the biggest scholarships in the world, so just keep that in your mind. But now we're going to answer the next big question, which is, what is the required standard for each of these categories? What do I need to do to be like an exceptional candidate in each of these categories? For the standard of each of these categories, I'm going to define it through the lens of what it takes to win a full ride scholarship. But if your goal is just to get into Harvard or get accepted into Oxford, then the bar is so much lower. In general, if we just aim to meet the standard of getting a full ride scholarship, then just simply getting accepted into our dream university will be a walk in the park. Okay, so for entrepreneurship, the bar is essentially you need to have a statewide or nationwide organization at the minimum. If it's a non-for-profit, it needs to have a volunteer base, probably of at least 50 people. If it's a for-profit organization, you want at least 5 staff. I would say at least a revenue stream of 100K plus, or funding in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And most importantly, have clear impact metrics, like you're driving clear positive change in your home country or somewhere in the world. For research, you need to be doing research in a very critical and important field that people want to fund. So things such as cancer research or climate change, or just something that's kind of buzzwordy at the moment, to be truthful. You need to show evidence of doing research placements over the course of multiple years, and that by the end of it, that you're currently pioneering or working on a really critical field of research that you would like to do your PhD in at your dream school one day. And then finally, for the professional category, you need to get top grades, and then you need internships at top law firms or top finance firms, or organizations in your field of interest. If you're in finance, that's places like Goldman Sachs. If you're in the law firms, it's like one of the top 6 law firms in the world. And if you're in policy, the United Nations is a great place to try and get accepted into. As you can see, the general rule is just figure out which of these 3 categories you want to focus on, and then go as far as possible you can with that category. Just try and excel as much as possible. But on top of selecting that category, you also need to bulk out your resume by having experiences from the other 2 categories, in my opinion. So for me, my spike was my entrepreneurial work and building out Elucidate Education. But I also had a huge background in sport, competing in Ninja Warrior at the highest level. I had multiple jobs throughout, like as a teaching assistant. And then also I'd done research placements at my local graduate school of education, working in the mental health space. For the 3 examples of the people I gave, everyone did have their spike, but they also just had a bunch of other supplemental experiences that kind of just holistically build out their application. The spike is the most important part, but you still need a couple more experiences to fill out your resume and show that you have a diverse set of interests. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the standard and bar that I'm setting, just remember we're looking at this through the context of what it takes to win a full ride scholarship. The profiles I've shown you are people who have received or been finalists for the toughest scholarships in the world. So if your dream is just to get into Harvard or Oxford or Stanford, the bar is significantly lower. It's really just when you're applying for these scholarships that it becomes super competitive. And then the other thing I want to leave you with is a quote that I used during my early stages when I was 18 years old and I had this dream. This was a quote that really helped me get started and overcome that imposter syndrome and that lack of self-belief, which is by Rich Roll, the ultra runner. And he says, most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years. You have to remember that these profiles take years to develop. And if you just put the work in every single day, the success will compound over time and it will kind of follow like an exponential curve where you'll put in heaps of effort at the start and you'll see very little returns on your results. But over time, as that success compounds, as you get more people in your organization, as you get more research placements or more work placements, everything becomes easier over time and your resume will stack up and you will become that exceptional candidate within the space of 3 or 4 years. So just definitely keep that in the back of your mind as you commence this journey, which is you definitely can do it. As a final closing piece of advice, if you want a really strong roadmap for what it takes to get into your dream school or find scholarship success, look up the scholarship that you want to win. Then go through the past winners, like the winners from the previous year, find a scholar that's in your field of interest, find them on LinkedIn, and then copy exactly what they've done. Because if that's what they did to get in, then odds are you can pretty much do the same or go a little bit higher. You'll find the same success. Okay, that's gonna do it for this video. In the next video, we're gonna be looking into recommendation letters and how to make sure that you get the best academic referees and best character referees possible. One of the most daunting and difficult parts of applying for dream schools and prestigious scholarships is gathering both your academic and character recommendation letters. Recommendation letters are one of the most critical component of your college applications. And so in this video, I'm gonna be walking you through how to identify the best possible recommenders, how to reach out to them, and then how to give them the right information so that they write you the best possible recommendation letter. Ivy Leagues and prestigious scholarships will generally require you to submit 3 recommendation letters, with it being both a combination of academic and character referees. Your academic referees should be people you know through either a teacher-student relationship or a researcher-student relationship. And essentially their job is to convince the selection committee that you have the academic potential to thrive at that dream school. To get this across in your recommendation letter, they should be focusing on the following thing. The first is your academic ability and class ranking. The second is your motivation for your proposed course of study and your academic aptitude to thrive in that course. And then finally, your passion for that specific field or research area. When selecting your academic referees, you should consider them in the following order. The first is any academic mentors or unit coordinators who know you well. The second is any recommenders you've had from any research placements you've done. And then finally, if you're still in need of recommenders, then reach out to professors who have taught you in a specific unit. The reason that I put professors last, even though that's the recommender that most people go with, is because they are teaching hundreds of students every single semester and they probably don't actually know you that well. And they're really not going to be able to speak to your academic aptitudes just through one unit that you've took. That's why getting research placements and people who are unit coordinators or academic mentors are going to be able to talk about your entire academic progression and give a much more holistic sense about you as an academic candidate. The second type of referee is the character referee, and their job is to convince the committee that you are both driven and a great person as well to be around. In order to get this across, these referees should focus on the following things. The first is your professional accomplishments. The second is your defining qualities as a person and how you align with the scholarship values. The third is any adversity that you've overcome during your lifetime. And then finally, how are you going to be a great addition to the student body / school community? When selecting your character referees, the first person you should try to reach out to is the person that is tied professionally to your most notable professional experience. So the professional experience is at the top of your resume. So this might be your co-founder of your non-for-profit, your boss in a professional work setting, or just anyone who knows you best professionally and can really attest to that. The second character referee that you should look for will ideally be a mentor of yours, and they're going to be someone who can really speak to the qualities of you as a person, any adversity that you've overcome, and why you're just an all-round amazing person to be around and why you'd be such a great fit for that school. One of the biggest questions I get asked all the time when it comes to recommendation letters is, does the prestige or reputation of your recommender matter? And the short answer is no. The first and most obvious reason is the selection panel is built up of people who are extremely notable and professionally recognized, and the odds that they're going to find the person that you've selected impressive is going to be very low. But the second and more important reason is the purpose of a recommendation letter is to have someone who can speak and attest to you as a holistic person and give information that extends beyond the application you're submitting. In order to achieve that, you want someone who really knows a lot about you, knows your life story, and can give fun facts and interesting things about you that your current application doesn't provide. So focus on the quality of the letter rather than the reputation of the recommender providing it. Once you have picked a handful of academic and character referees, the next step is to reach out to them. It's often extremely daunting to do this, but just remember that these professors got to where they are because they had others support them. So odds are they're really going to want to help you. And in the worst case scenario, all they're going to say is, I don't have enough time, or they just won't get back to your email at all. So no harm, no foul. To help facilitate this process, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to reach out to one of my referees. The first step was to send a cold email, where as you can see from this screenshot that I'm putting up, I cold emailed one of my unit coordinators. I said that I was in the Bachelor of Philosophy program and that I was trying to secure funding for my Harvard degree. Your first cold email should probably be more concise than what I wrote, but your general goal is just to be incredibly authentic and show that you would be indebted and grateful if they were willing to write this academic letter for you. Once you have confirmed your recommenders through either phone calls or cold emails or text messages, the next biggest piece of advice I can give is to provide your recommenders with as much information as you possibly can. Your academic and character referees are likely going to be super busy people, so the more information you can give them, the better. In your follow-up email to your recommender, start by attaching your resume and your statement of purpose. But then something else I've started doing as of recent is attaching at the bottom of the email a bunch of key details and fun facts about myself to help make the process really easy for them. So these include details such as the program I'm applying for, the title of my undergraduate degree, my key past professional experiences and awards, my honors thesis topic, and then a description of my future ambitions and why I need to go to this school to achieve them. So it's just a really concise list that they can go off to then write this recommendation letter with ease. So again, the general rule of thumb is if you want to succeed in getting a good recommendation letter, make it as easy as you can for them by giving out dot points, by showing them the structure that you'd really love them to touch on, by talking about what each paragraph could be on. Give them as much ideas as possible so that you make that process very easy for them. The easier you make it for your recommenders, the more they'll see how much this matters to you, and in turn, they'll likely write you a much better recommendation letter. And that's pretty much it. The rest is in the hands of your recommenders. All I can say is just as soon as the scholarship or college application opens, reach out to your recommenders immediately, get them into the system as quickly as possible so that they have a couple of months to write it, and then follow them up every 2 weeks or so just to make sure that they're progressing with that letter. It's also just worth having like 1 or 2 people as backup referees, because it's quite often the case that referees just procrastinate it and then never get around to it. So if you have 1 or 2 people that you know could write your recommendation letter in the space of 1 to 3 days, then that is going to be really handy to make sure that you have that fail-safe backup there if you need it. As we close out this video, one final piece of advice I want to leave you with is if this all feels overwhelming at the moment, if this idea of getting all these recommendation letters feels like a lot, just remember, once you've completed this process once for one college or one scholarship, you will have these recommendation letters for life. When you apply for future jobs or opportunities, all your recommenders need to do is just change the name of the scholarship or the job title and maybe make a couple of adjustments here or there, but it's super easy once you've done it once. So that's going to do it for part 6 in this 10-part series. In the next video, we're going to be exploring how you can write a resume that will get you into any dream school or top scholarship, as well as walking you through the 5 best resume templates in the world. When it comes to getting into your dream schools and winning prestigious scholarships, the resume is without a doubt one of the most important aspects of the college admissions process because it's the document that's going to summarize your entire professional and academic journey. In other words, it's one of the first documents that the admissions officers look at because it's going to help them understand exactly who you are, why you want to go to this school, and whether or not you're deserving of going to that school or winning that prestigious scholarship. Today's video is super exciting because I'm going to be showing you the exact resume that I used to get accepted into every single Ivy League that I applied for, and also that allowed me to win not only Harvard's biggest graduate scholarship, but also the 2024 Quad Fellowship. So it's super exciting to be able to share this with you. I'm also going to be breaking down the 3 key strategies that you need to understand to write the best possible resume, and then also sharing the top 5 resume templates that I've found online for you to use, and they're available for free at the top of the description. When it comes to resumes, there are typically 3 key formats that students can use. Either the 1-page resume, the 2-page resume, or the 3-page resume. Anything longer than 3 pages is honestly just going to overwhelm the admissions panel, and they're probably just going to give up on reading the second that they see it. Regardless of the format that you're going to use, the first key concept that you really need to understand to write a great resume is understanding not just how to describe your role, but also the impact that you had in that role. For instance, instead of saying, "I managed a project," you need to take that and turn it into something so much more powerful, like, "I led a team of 20 people to successfully complete a $10,000 project under budget and ahead of schedule." That's not only explaining your role, but it's also explaining your impact. Now let's get into the fun part, because I'm going to be walking you through my resume that got me into every single Ivy League I applied for and won me 2 big scholarships. One thing to remember to avoid getting overwhelmed is that I'm 24 years old, and this is what helped me to win Harvard's biggest graduate scholarship. If your dream is just to get into Harvard, the bar is so much lower, so please don't get stressed or overwhelmed by this. Instead, try and see it as a point of inspiration, a way in which you can get some ideas about how you could have some more experiences that will bulk out your resume. So without further ado, let's crack into it. Now, at the top of my resume, of course, I'm going to be starting with my education and my education accolades. And when I was applying to Harvard, I knew that the only thing I could put was my undergraduate degree at the University of Western Australia. So I started with my degree title, which is a Bachelor of Philosophy with first class honors in engineering science and business law, followed by the title of my thesis. Then I also put my GPA, my weighted average mark, and then some awards that I won that included an engineering scholarship and being the 2022 University of Western Australia Volunteer of the Year. So very simple, very stock standard, and you're likely going to do the same. Again, if you want access to this resume template, top of the description, and hopefully you can use it as well. Now let's move into the bulk of the resume, which is like my professional experiences, and this is probably what's going to make up the bulk of your resume as well, whether it be like your extracurriculars or professional working experience. And for me, I titled my section Professional Experience in Education. Since when I was applying to Harvard, I was applying to the Graduate School of Education, so I wanted to make it very clear that these are my related professional experiences. When writing out your professional experiences, you should always put your most important professional experience first, and then put your least important down at the bottom. So for my first experience, I put that I was the co-founder, board member, and chief innovation officer for Elucidate Education, which is my charity back in Australia. Now, my description is really what's going to be helpful here, because the way in which I've worded it is really kind of like a template that hopefully you can use for your own experiences. So it goes like this: co-founder of one of Australia's most impactful education charities. With 55 volunteers, Elucidate creates non-for-profit textbooks, online content, and videos to support over 82,000 students annually to have free access to the education resources they need to succeed in school. Then, I also put as a dot point, responsible for securing $100,000 to fund our recent Melbourne expansion and co-developing our 5-year strategy for impacting more than 300,000 students by 2028. This experience is very clear because it describes not only my role and what I did for the organization, but then also the impact that I was able to have through co-founding this organization. And so hopefully that's going to give you an idea. For the remainder of my professional experiences, I'm not going to go through every single one step by step because that would take a very long time, but you can definitely read those by checking it out in my description. Basically, I put that I co-founded another charity when I was a little bit younger. I put that I was a research assistant at my local graduate school of education. I wrote about a documentary that I produced, and then also that I was the general manager of a small university club that we had that was also focused in the field of education. The next part of my resume kind of touches on my book publications and my awards. So at the time of applying to Harvard late last year, I had 6 book publications teachers that I'd worked with through my charity. So they were in the fields of chemistry, year 12, and also mathematics, year 12. So they were in the fields of year 12 chemistry and year 12 maths. And then also I'd authored a self-help book called Realizing Dreams. I put them all hyperlinked there so that if the admissions panel wanted to, they could check out book publications to see what they're all about. Then below that, I quickly listed my honors and awards. These aren't very much academically heavy honors because I'm never going to be the person like getting the subject prizes. Instead, these were a lot of volunteering awards. So they were things like the Curtin Innovation Award winner for teaching and learning, the 2023 Mission Australia Young Changemaker of the Year, the 2023 Australia Day Young Community Citizen of the Year, and so on and so forth, all the way down to my 2019 engineering scholarship that I won a long time ago. Now, the back half of my resume is super wacky and random, and I think what I wanted to do is more so just speak to myself holistically as a human being and show different sides of myself that might not be reflected through things like my personal statement or recommendation letters. So, the next part of my resume talks about my leadership in sport, and specifically in the sport of Ninja Warrior. So I spoke about how I do commentating for the World Ninja League, how I founded a 24-hour pull-up challenge, how I represented Australia at the World Championships, and then also how I competed and placed 4th at the Australian National Championships for Ninja Warrior. So super random, but kind of just showing another side to my personality. And then the next part gets even kind of more wacky. It kind of ties into my ambassadorship and media experience is what I've titled this part of my resume. So I put how I was on Adventure All-Stars Season 4, which is like a charity television show. I spoke about how I was on a Channel 9, which is like the Australian big network, how I was on an advertising campaign for the Australian of the Year and Australia Day awards, and then finally how I gave a TEDx talk as well. And then to close out the back end of my resume, this is kind of like where I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel in regards to my experiences, but I just titled it Community Impact, which is I talked about how I was an executive panel judge for some statewide awards, how I was part of the Global Shapers Hub within Perth, and then finally how I was part of the Rotary of Crawley on a scholarship. And then at the very bottom, I just put some of my hobbies and interests, particularly around long distance running. And so that's my resume. That's what helped me to win Harvard's biggest graduate scholarship, and hopefully that's going to give you some ideas about how you can set your resume out. There are two more key concepts that I really quickly want to cover when it comes to writing a great resume. The first is don't be afraid to hype yourself up, which is, I know it's hard and I know it's difficult to really put yourself at the center of importance and really hype up all your accomplishments, but you have to remember that everyone else that you're going up against is really going to be making everything sound super important and making their accomplishments sound really awesome. And so never embellish, never lie, but always do your best to try and hype yourself up, make yourself sound as good as you can, because at the end of the day, it's a competition and there's nothing wrong with being proud of what you've done. And then the other key concept is always to remember to tailor your resume based on the program that you're applying for. I was applying to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and so the first page and a half of my resume was pretty much completely dedicated to experiences in the field of education. Your relevant experiences are the things that the admissions panel are going to care about the most. Most of my resume is just fluff, like the back end really isn't that relevant. It's mostly this first page and my book publications in the field of education. So make sure that you're tailoring your resume based on the program that you're applying for. And as we close out this video, again, I've put the top 5 resume templates that I've found online that you can use for your own inspiration. If you don't like the format that I've put, which is kind of like quite colorful, you can definitely consider another format that I've put in the description. Any of them will work for you. And so that's gonna do it for part 7 in this 10-part video series. We are flying through the videos now, and I really hope these are helpful in helping you to reach your dream schools. And our next video is gonna be covering our personal statements and supplemental essays. So until then, good luck. The personal statement is the most critical component of your college application. And as someone who has been accepted to Harvard on a full ride scholarship and been a finalist for so many other major scholarships out there, I owe so much of my success to my ability to craft a great personal statement. And so in today's video, I'm going to be explaining exactly how to write an Ivy League level personal statement, and then also how to ace your supplemental essay questions such as why do you want to go to this school, and describe your personal interests / hobbies. Also, to make this process of writing your personal statement and supplemental essay so much easier, I have built a free 10-page personal statement and supplemental essay guide at the top of the description, so be sure to go and check that out. Okay, so let's crack into this video with writing your personal statement / statement of purpose. When you think about writing a personal statement, the first thing that I want to put into your mind is thinking about the structure. If you're watching this channel or channels like me, then odds are you're going to be applying to a ton of dream schools and a ton of prestigious scholarships in the years ahead. And so what's really important is that you have a personal statement structure that is super flexible and can be molded depending on the school that you're applying for or the scholarship that you're applying for. From my experience writing over 20 personal statements for my own applications at this point and editing a ton of my students' personal statements and applications, the structure that I have learned that works best for a 1,000-word personal statement is the following. The ideal structure should start with 250 words describing your background and life stories, 150 words on your professional achievements that kind of like highlight your expertise and dedication to a specific field, followed by 100 words describing your kind of professional ambitions and aspirations, then 250 words on why the school's program is critical for you to achieve your goals, followed by 150 words on how you plan to contribute to the college community / student body, and then finally a 100-word conclusion that kind of helps to summarize your main points and reinforce your enthusiasm for the school and their specific program. The reason I love this personal statement structure is because the first 500 words are pretty much locked into place irrespective of what dream school or prestigious scholarship that you're applying for. That's because the first 500 words are solely dedicated to telling your life story, your professional achievements, and then your professional ambitions. And then the second half is your flexible aspect of your personal statement, which is you're talking about school, what kind of contribution you want to make, and then any closing words you feel like you want to make for that specific school or scholarship. If you would like to see an example of me walking through this structure with my very own personal statement, then be sure to check out this video that I put at the top of the description where I'm talking about how I won Harvard's biggest graduate scholarship, and that'll show you the exact personal statement that I used. So we have our structure, and now let's talk about actually writing our personal statement and what that process looks like. The most important thing when it comes to writing a great personal statement is that you start early and spend multiple months working on it. When you're drafting your personal statement, this is something that you want to be able to work on, then take a few days break from, and then come back to it with a fresh set of eyes and have new insights and edits that you can make on your personal statement. For instance, for my first personal statement that I ever wrote, which was for the Fulbright Scholarship early 2023, I put around an hour of work in every single day for about 3 months. I can now write my personal statements within like 5 to 10 hours, but at the start, you just really have to put in the work to build a narrative and build a personal statement that's really going to help you to excel in these dream schools and prestigious scholarships. So we've got our timeline, and then the next step is to write the first draft of our personal statement. When writing the first draft of your personal statement, I like to apply the Ali Abdaal principle that's called FBR, which stands for write fast, bad, and wrong. In the drafting phase, you just want to be chucking ideas down on paper as fast as you possibly can without any regard to grammar, style, or word choice. You want to write whatever just pops into your head and avoid getting trapped in a prison of perfection where you just never get started because you're so stuck on the word choices and the sentence structures. The goal is just to write the worst possible first draft. Just get something down on a piece of paper. Then at a later date, you can come back to it, you can edit your first draft, you can rewrite a ton of it, and then you'll have your second draft, and so on and so forth. But the biggest problem is that we never get started because we're caught in a prison of perfection. So the way to get over that is just to write fast, write bad, and write wrong for your first draft. Just get something down on a piece of paper. Once you've done a couple cycles of drafting your personal statement and you feel comfortable sharing it with others, this is the point where you need to start getting feedback. Ideally, you should aim to have 5 to 10 people look at your personal statement before you submit it, because whilst they may not be experts in the college or scholarship admissions process, having external perspectives from people who have just never read your work before, seeing it for the first time, they will be able to give you so many insights about the points where they're getting confused or where they're getting lost or things that they think you can do better. So once you've written your draft, just keep seeking out feedback. Even if you don't agree with all their feedback, they're still going to give you a lot of invaluable insights. Keep editing your personal statement yourself, and then eventually through this kind of like cycle of working over it for multiple months, you're going to get to a personal statement that you're really happy with. And again, if you want to see what my personal statement looks like, just check it out. It's in the description for free. Okay, now let's move on to the supplemental essays. The three most common types of supplemental essays are why this school essay, the extracurricular essay, and then why this major/degree essay. For the purposes of time, I'm not going to go through the structure of every single one of these supplemental essays, but you can check that out with detailed descriptions in the 10-page personal statement guide, so please go check that out. Whilst I can't cover all the supplemental essays in this video, one framework that's going to help you no matter the supplemental essay that you're writing is called the past, present, and future framework, which is for every essay, you want to start with an event from your past, then you want to focus on where you are now in the present, and then finally how the school is going to help you to build upon that thing into the future. For instance, for the extracurricular essay, which is a super common supplemental essay where they ask you to describe a passion or interest or hobby of yours, what you should do is start with a key extracurricular activity from your past and use that to set the scene. Explain how you came to discover this extracurricular, then move into the present where you talk about why you love it or what impact or what your role is in that extracurricular, and then finally talk about the future and how the school is going to help you to further explore that hobby, that interest, that extracurricular activity into the future, and why you need to go to this school specifically to explore that extracurricular. As another example, when it comes to the why this degree/why this major essay, start with an example of the past that kind of talks about how you came to love this field of interest, then talk about the present by talking about all the things that you've been able to do so far, and then talk about the future and how the school is going to help you to excel in that major, excel in that degree, and get the most out of that opportunity as possible. And so that's gonna do it for this video on personal statements and supplemental essays. Again, check out all the resources in the description because there is so many there. And in the next video, we're gonna be talking about how to ace your interview for both the Ivy Leagues and prestigious scholarships. The interview is the final step and hands down the most nerve-wracking part of getting into that dream school of yours or winning that prestigious scholarship. As someone who has personally done 8 final round scholarship interviews in the last year alone and been accepted into every single Ivy League that I've applied to, in today's video, I'm gonna be walking you through exactly how to ace your final round interview by not only sharing the most common questions that you can expect to get asked, but also walking you through my process for preparing for a final round interview. To help guide today's video, I've written a free 10-page interview guide that has all the most common questions and all the biggest tips, so check that out at the top of the description if you want that extra help. Okay, first things first is we need to clear something up. We need to clear the air. An Ivy League interview is completely different to a final round scholarship interview. The stakes for an Ivy League interview are so much lower because you're generally just meeting with like one alumni and they're just gonna ask you a handful of questions, but mostly just have a conversational chat to see whether or not you'd be a great fit for the school. On the other hand, a prestigious scholarship interview, whether it's for like the Rhodes, the Gates, the Fulbright, the Schwarzman, any of those big ones, is an entirely different beast. These interviews are super high stakes. You're often in front of a panel of 5 to 10 experts. They're gonna be grilling you all about your values, your experiences, your ambitions, and you have to convince them in a pool of typically hundreds or even sometimes thousands of applicants that you are the best investment for them to make. So in this video, I'm gonna be teaching you how to prepare for a high stakes scholarship interview so that if you're just trying to get into your dream school, by the time you get to that interview stage, you will be so prepared for it. When it comes to preparing for a high stakes scholarship interview, there are 2 parts to your preparation that you need to consider. The first, of course, is your content preparation, which is you need to know your stuff. And then the second half is mental preparation, which is the part that's often left out, but I'm gonna give you a few key concepts that will help you to prepare. Let's start with the content preparation, which you can do by taking all of the practice questions from my interview guide, putting them into a separate document, and then just starting to write dot point answers for each of them. The biggest mistake that I have made and so many people make when writing their content preparation is they write fully written answers. This is going to make you sound super rehearsed as it has done for me in the past, so my new rule is what I call the 5 dot point rule. That is, every single answer you write should be able to be done in 5 dot points, and each dot point should not be more than 2 lines long. On the day of the interview, this is going to allow you to improvise, adapt your answers based on the new questions being asked, and most importantly, remain authentic. When you're writing your answers for these practice questions, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is to actively think about the values or the mission of the scholarship or school that you're applying for. At the end of the day, they are assessing your ability to be their ideal scholar or their ideal fit for this school. And so it's really important that you understand what values that they're looking for and cater your answers towards those. For instance, if they value leadership, always think about how can you integrate stories of you as a leader, how you can integrate your principles and your values as a leader so that you can really be an ideal candidate for that scholarship or for that dream school. Once you have finished drafting all your answers and you're pretty happy with them and you've looked over them a bunch of times, you then need to move on to the mock interview phase as quickly as possible. Seek out your mentors, teachers, and friends, literally anyone who's willing to help, and get them to simulate the actual interview format as closely as possible. So walk into a room, treat it like a very serious interview, and do your best to imitate what you are going to have on the day. Over time, I've come to understand that the main purpose of a mock interview is just to get you comfortable answering the questions. It's just to get you comfortable interviewing again and to get yourself in that mindset so that you're ready on the day once you step in front of a panel of like 5 to 10 experts. The second half of your preparation is your mental preparation. And this is highly individualistic for every single person, like how you prepare mentally for a scholarship or dream school interview. But I'm gonna share a few key concepts that I've learned over the last year and I think are just super valuable in helping you to succeed. The first concept is one of the most underrated concepts that I'm really only just becoming to understand as I've gone through all these interviews so many times over. And that is the importance of turning the interview into a conversation with the panelists. Most candidates treat an interview like it's an interview, as in they take it really seriously. But winners treat it like it's a conversation. Why this distinction matters so much is because when it's a conversation, the panel is going to like you a lot more because you'll come across as more authentic and the experience will be so much more pleasant rather than awkward and serious. Like, we don't want it to be like they ask a question, you give an answer. They ask a question, you give an answer, and everything's super serious. You want it to feel conversational and you want to like really appeal and show your authenticity to the panel. The way in which I've come to understand how to achieve this for myself is literally just being my authentic self, which means being slightly colloquial and casual. It means being brutally honest about myself at times, and then finally just mostly being positive throughout the interview because that's what I generally want to project. This is something that I'm leaning into the more interviews that I start to do, and I highly recommend this becoming part of your mental preparation where you just try to figure out how can you make your interview more authentic and conversational through the answers that you're giving. The second key concept is a super quick one, which is just to ignore your competitors because all you're doing is wasting your energy. At the end of the day, all you can control is your application, the way you interact with the judges, and the interview you give. So who you're up against is completely out of your control, so just forget about them. The third concept is to go into the interview with the mindset that the dream school or the dream scholarship isn't really the be-all and end-all, as in it's not life or death whether or not you win this award or scholarship or dream school. My advice is to go into the interview with the mindset that you don't need the scholarship or dream school, and whilst it would be great to have, you are going to be successful irrespective of the outcome. Whilst it's super hard to do, having this mindset will allow you to stay relaxed and truly be your authentic self during the interview. And the final key concept to master going into your interview is to learn how to have a mindset of wanting to have fun when you are in the interview. At the end of the day, the panelists are going to be interviewing candidates for hours upon hours on end, as well as sometimes across multiple days. And all of these candidates are generally going to be so nervous, like that it's like beyond crazy. Like everyone is so nervous coming into their final interviews. So if you can be super refreshing to the panel through just being fun, energetic, and exciting, then that's gonna have such a positive impact on your interview. The way in which I've learned to make interviews more fun is to think of it as you have 30 minutes to speak with a panel of some of the brightest minds in your country, if not the entire world. So enjoy that opportunity because it does not come around that often. If you can get this final concept right of like learning to have fun and really enjoying the interview and treating it like it's a game, I seriously think it's going to be one of the most influential changes you can make to your interview style and the most influential change you can have on the outcome of your interview. So that's gonna do it for this video on how to ace your interviews. Again, get your content preparation really solid, run a bunch of mock interviews, and then keep those key mental concepts in the back of your mind, which essentially just are be authentically you, and have a lot of fun. And if you can do all of that, I seriously think you're gonna stand a great chance in your final interview. And then in our final video, we're gonna be covering how to manage rejections and build resilience in this process of applying for our dream schools and these prestigious scholarships. Good luck. Welcome back to the final video in this 10-part Dream College and Prestigious Scholarship series. I really hope these last 9 videos have been super helpful, and in this final video of this 10-part series, we're going to be covering a super important concept, which is learning how to manage failure and build resilience. To be honest, this video is probably the most important because if you're going down this path of applying for dream schools, prestigious scholarships, and literally any other crazy opportunities out there, then managing failure and having really great resilience to keep applying and applying and applying is a skill that you must have. To illustrate the importance of these skills, I'm going to be showing you my scholarships journey in 2023. As you can see from the graphic that I'm putting up, I lost 10 prestigious scholarships before I finally won my first one. 10 failures in a row. It started with Fulbright and the John Monash Scholarship in early 2023, which I poured my heart and soul into for months, and then I lost both of them in the interview stage, followed by the Rhodes Scholarship, which again I went all in on and lost, followed by the R.G. Menzies Scholarship to Harvard, and Master's Scholarships to Columbia, Penn, and Stanford, all of which I lost. Then in early January of 2024, I applied for the O'Shaughnessy Fellowship, which I interviewed for and lost, then the AAA Scholarship and the Ramsey Scholarship, and again, I lost. And then finally, after 10 failures, I finally won the Frank Knox Memorial Fellowship to Harvard on my 11th application. And then shortly after, I won the 2024 Quad Fellowship as well, which I feel super lucky for. Now, this process of applying for scholarships took an entire year's worth of work, like working day in and day out. And had I quit at any point along this journey, I would not be here at Harvard today on a full ride scholarship, all taken care of financially. There were so many times that I wanted to quit, so many times where I didn't want to learn from the mistakes of my past applications, and so many times I just felt so foolish and inadequate for chasing this dream of going to Harvard on a full ride scholarship. But I was resilient. I just kept going, I kept learning from my failures, I kept pushing my academic and professional boundaries, and in the end, I was successful because I never gave up and I never will give up. As I've gotten to Harvard and met a lot of grad students, I've come to learn that many of them have had similar experiences, particularly when it comes to prestigious scholarships. That is, many of them have even failed for multiple years before they won a scholarship and got admitted into their dream program. So as we close out this series, I want to give you 3 pieces of advice around how to be resilient and never give up on your college and scholarship dreams, or just dreams at large, to be honest. The first piece of advice I'm going to give you is that applying for prestigious scholarships and dream colleges is a skill. And just like learning to play soccer or play the piano, it's something that you are going to suck at the start. Like, without a doubt, everyone is terrible when they first write their first application. And you are going to have to spend a lot of hours working to perfect this skill of applying for dream schools, prestigious scholarships, and all the other opportunities out there. The process of application writing, telling your story, interviewing, writing a compelling resume, finding good recommendation letters to use, these are all things that you will learn through writing many applications over a period of time. And whilst this sheet makes it look like I applied for a lot of things, between awards, scholarships, television shows, and conferences, I've written at least 50 applications to this point. And every single time I was trying to improve this skill of application writing and interviewing. So if you get rejected from your first scholarship, if you get rejected from your dream school the first time around, don't take it personally. Just always try to figure out how you can be better for the next one, and then the next one, and just keep reaching out to experts and alumni and learning from free online resources like all the ones that I'm providing and other great YouTubers out there are providing. And then eventually, if you just keep going, you will get there. And most importantly, whilst this may sound exhausting, once you master the skill of application writing and doing great interviews, I promise you it will pay dividends for the rest of your life. Because whether you're applying for a television show or whether you're applying for a job, these are invaluable skills that are going to allow you to just have such higher win rates than your competitors. My second critical piece of advice is that whilst it's great to always be applying for scholarships and opportunities, just like I did, it is also so important that you are always working to build out your resume. To win prestigious scholarships and get into your dream schools, there is always going to be a specific standard of excellence that you need to reach in order to be a competitive applicant. So if you aren't quite there yet, then it's okay to spend maybe another 6 months, a year, 2 years building out your extracurriculars and professional experiences. This path is extremely difficult, and this is like the Olympics of academia trying to get into your dream schools and these prestigious scholarships. But my formula for success is basically, if you just keep building out your resume, keep applying for opportunities and learning from each rejection, and that you never give up, then eventually you will get there. I promise you. My third and final piece of advice is that if there's a scholarship or a school that you really thought that you deserved to get into and you didn't get it, it's important to remember that panels make the wrong decisions all the time, and that there are so many factors that are outside of your control. Statistically, I have won less than 20% of the things that I have applied for, and in my eyes, that's still a good win ratio. There are always going to be uncontrollable elements such as luck and panel bias that always play a huge role in the outcome of your application. So if you lose, don't take it personally. For me, my solution is just to always make sure that I'm applying to 3 to 5 opportunities every single month, and that allows me to really never take any rejection personally, because once I lose something, I just move on to the next thing as quickly as possible. And with that said, that's going to do it for this 10-part series. I really hope that all these videos have been super helpful, and as always, if you want one-on-one support from me for free, then be sure to fill out my Google form at the top of the description, because I'm selecting one new student every single week to help reach their college dreams or win that prestigious scholarship. I have so many ideas and research-based videos that I'm super excited to make in the weeks ahead, so stay tuned, and as always, good luck with your college dreams.